Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, Sean Dumas.
Good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning into another weight loss episode of Bravery with Him. And as I have done in previous podcasts, I'd like to take just a moment to say thank you so very much to my extended family. That's you. That's all listen out there. And I'm very, very grateful that you're taking a few minutes and inviting me into your home or your car and listening to what I'm ranting and raving about. I hope it's something that you're interested in. So to say thank you just doesn't seem enough, but the podcast is growing. We're growing in more countries. More people are hearing us. You guys are sharing the podcast. You guys are helping out in any way, shape, or form. You're commenting. It's fantastic. I even get folks that are getting a hold of me now and submitting dad jokes of the day. You guys like them so much that you guys are now submitting them, and I think that's fantastic. So I wanted to say thank you. Take a minute there to make sure you subscribe to my YouTube page. The YouTube page is set up amazing, mainly because all the series and stuff are all completely broke down for you, and they're put in order, so they're nice and easy to find. They now have pictures and different things there, so that way you don't just have a black screen like when we started out there. It's taken me a little bit of a while to get all of this stuff figured out, but I'm getting there. And technology is not my strongest point, kind of like the social media platforms, but I know that if you take a few minutes and like and subscribe and follow and all those things, that all helps in the search algorithm, and that means that people are going to be able to find us a little bit easier, and that also means we could expand our family and stuff there for everybody that's listening out there. That's why I do this. That's why I put in hundreds of hours into these podcasts is to help, and I'm hoping that you guys get something out of these podcasts that will help you. Well, it'll help you either maybe avoid some of the pitfalls that I went through on my weight loss journey, and not just that, I mean on the Hodgepodge series and the Introvert series. I hope there's something in those series that you guys are getting out of it. It seems like you guys are, so that's why I continue to do them, and all I can do is say thank you so very much for tuning in. So today I wanted to talk about something that is very, very difficult when you're considering your own weight loss journey. And I know a lot of people consider, a diet as losing weight, and they're absolutely 100% correct. I just know that I was on my fair share of roller coaster rides with diets, and I tried the fad ones. I tried all kinds of different shakes and bars and all of them out there. And I'm not saying they don't work. I'm not against them. I don't want any company thinking that I'm against them, because I do know they do help some folks out. They just didn't help me out. So leading into episode 22 today is going to basically say admitting you have a weight problem. That is probably one of the hardest things for anybody to be able to say for everything that they're going through. I had to admit that when I was considering my own weight loss journey, and as I've told you before in other podcasts, I just Thelma and Louised it right off the cliff. I just literally overnight went from 7,000 to 9,000 calories down to 1,200, literally overnight. I completely changed my life and what I was doing. And I also did it to where I didn't do any research, I didn't do any prep, I didn't really talk to anybody about it. I basically woke up that morning and said, okay, you know what? I'm done. I'm so done with being fat and being overweight. And sorry, that's Willow shaking. Sorry about that. I guess you want to be part of the podcast. But I'd had enough. And the horrible comments that I was enduring on a daily basis, and the nasty looks and the scowls and everything else finally had just gotten to me. And for the most part, I don't let stuff like that really bother me. But after a while, I don't care who you are and how strong and how tough you are, it's going to get to you and it's going to tear you down. So the first thing that I had to basically learn was I had to admit to myself that I have a weight problem. And admitting that you have a problem is always the first step in either getting help. And I know, alcoholics there, when they're struggling, unfortunately, with alcoholism and everything, or the drugs or anything like that, admitting that you have a problem is the first step, because it's like, okay, well, maybe I do need to do something. I'm now starting to acknowledge that I've got a problem and I need help. And it's not always that you can't do it on your own. I mean that's what I'm doing. I haven't backed down. I literally started on my own, and here we go. I just dove off the deep end, like I said, without doing any research or any any kind of prep. I just off the cliff I went, and here we go. But the first thing that I had to admit to myself is I had a weight problem, and I had to admit that all to you as well. Even though I've been doing this now for 19 months, that's how long I've been on my weight loss journey. I still, and I freely admit, I still have a problem, and sometimes I still have to readmit to myself I have a weight problem, because when you're going through the store or you're going through a convenience store, and yes, I do very good about not basically finding the junk food or wanting to go get those extra drinks or anything like that. I'm getting better about not going down that road. But the problem is I always have to continue to admit, hey, I have a weight problem. You got to look in the mirror and say, okay, well, this isn't working. We need to do something different. And yes, like I said, those comments, those looks, those scowls, everything about it will get to you after a while, and it hurts. And that probably pushes you to the admitting part. But there's more to just admitting that you have a weight problem. You also have to do something about it. You basically got to say, okay, you know what? I can't do this anymore. Put my hands up. I need to make a change. And there's certain reasons that I need to. Because if you're somebody like me, I have been on the gain train of weight since I was 16. When I first started my first job, of course I worked with a family, so I don't know if that's really a job or not, but my official first job was at a fast food restaurant. And I thought, okay, well, I got it made. These are easy, it's no problem. Well, what I didn't know is while I worked there for almost 5 years, I put on almost 200 pounds. During that time there, I went through getting left at the altar. I tried committing suicide. I tried basically straightening my life out, and then I ended up getting married and having a kid. And there were so many things that were changing constantly, and I was just coming out of high school, so you have all that drama that you're basically up against. There was so much going on that basically I learned to eat my feelings. That was the way of processing, because like I've told you guys before, I was taught to compartmentalize. You don't process it, you don't deal with it, you just repress it and you move on. That's just the way basically the men in this area are taught, and that's all I know. And it has taken a long time to redo that mentality and redo that thinking. I haven't gotten that far yet. I would say 75-80%. I've done a lot of rewiring for everything that I've gone through, and it's helped me. And I honestly, I could not count on two hands how many diet plans that I was on, and the fad diets that come along, or take this pill and it'll help you, or eat this gummy and this will help you, or have these bars, or have this shake, or there's always some sort of, for a lack of better words, there's some sort of gimmick that's always out there to help you. Now, there are programs out there. I'm not doubting, I am not second guessing, I am not against them in any way, shape, or form. They do help people. Unfortunately, those programs just never helped me, and it left me so hollow inside and so empty that to fill that void, what I ended up doing was just basically eating my feelings. So you have all of this stuff for me, and I'm not quite sure how long you guys have been doing this, but since I was 16, I have done nothing but go up. Now, granted, yes, there have been a couple of the diets that I was on, and they did help. I lost 10, 15, 20 pounds. One diet I actually lost 66 pounds on and did really, really good. But the problem was I couldn't function with maintaining the levels that they wanted me to maintain at and what I was supposed to eat. So I ended up, of course, falling off the wagon. And then guess what? I gained all of those 66 pounds back, plus another, I'm not even going to say numbers. It's just disgusting at this point. So I learned a long time ago that if I was going to go down this road and try to figure it out, first was admitting it, of course. The second was actually taking the steps to move forward to do it. But the problem was I kept coming up with reasons why I don't need to go on a diet. I don't need to lose weight. And some of those reasons, just so you know, this is what I had to basically overcome to get started. And if I would have known this, like I've said before, if I would have known how hard it is and how much pain goes into massive weight loss like what I'm doing, because my goal is to be well over 300 pounds lighter, and that's what I'm working myself for. And there's so much that goes into that, and I had no idea, to be very honest, on how tough this was going to be. Now, granted, like I said before, it does get easier as you go along. But there's always that voice in the back of your head, rah, 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 have those cookies, rah, 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 have the brownies. You know, it's always there. It is always saying, you know, it's okay, it's no problem. Just eat a couple more. Those extra calories won't hurt you. Well, we have to take those calories off at some point, and that means working harder or sacrificing more or something. So I decided I'm not going to go down that road. I'm better than that. I don't need to do that. I don't need to worry about my weight. And some of the reasons that I would use to justify my size and not going on a diet was no one was ever going to be interested in me anyway, so why try? I haven't been in a serious relationship in a decade. It's been a very, very long time. Nobody's ever shown any interest or anything, so I always use that basically as a crutch to say, you know what, I know most people out there probably, I don't know, 90% of the people, heck, I don't know. Just throwing out a number, they don't like fat guys. That's really what it comes down to. And I used it because I was so terrified about getting into another relationship that I actually used my fat to help me stay out of relationships and keep people from looking at me. And still, even losing 200 pounds, I still don't have anybody interested. Nobody's even said anything. Nobody's said or even approached me saying, would you be interested in a relationship? But I always use that as a crutch, and that probably wasn't the best way of going about it. But one thing that I learned is even you don't do it for other people. You're having to do it for yourself. That's what it comes down to, is you have to do it for yourself. So I just had to start thinking, okay, well, I can't look at, okay, is there a reason why that I'm not losing weight? And I can't use the excuse nobody's going to be interested in me, even though nobody is, and I still don't have anybody knocking down the door to say, hey, you know what, I'd like to be your partner or anything like that. I have to do this for me, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Another reason that I would use to talk myself out of going on my weight loss journey is I can always buy bigger clothes. It's no big deal. They make them bigger because I went online and I started snooping around on some of the websites, because you get to a point where you can't buy any clothes in the store. It's like, okay, this stinks. You know what? It's really, really depressing when you go into the store and the biggest size they have is a 4X, and you go put a 4X on and you can't even button it. You've gained so much weight and you're so fat, and it's like, it was so depressing. It's like, okay, I don't even go clothes shopping anymore. I hate going it. My friend took me here, I don't know, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, somewhere in there. And yes, I have come down in my sizes, and I've actually come down. I could put a size shirt on 3 sizes smaller than when I started. Now, that's a heck of an accomplishment. I didn't feel comfortable in it. It didn't have enough room like what I'm used to. But the fact is I was able to get into it, and she reminded me of that because I was really down because I thought I had done better than what I was doing. And really, I'd come a long ways. It just takes time, and it's irritating, but I always use the excuse, I can always buy bigger clothes. They're always going to make, I could always go to a tent and awning store and have them make a shirt up for me, so that way I don't have to worry about losing weight. And of course, that's that is not the right way of thinking of it. But that's what was in my head, and that's the way I did it. Another reason that I talked myself out of going on a weight loss journey was I refused to sacrifice what I eat, and I love just to lose a few extra pounds. I just absolutely figured, life is too short as is. So then I came up with the way that I justified it is, you know what, we don't have a whole lot of time on this earth, so why am I going to worry about eating what I want and getting fatter when nobody's interested in anyway, and it doesn't matter because time is short on here, so I'm going to enjoy the brownies and the cookies and my lemon meringue pie and having 17 Mountain Dews per day and the 30 double cheeseburgers and fries and all the chicken strips and everything else that I absolutely love in life, my M&Ms, my Oreos and everything there. I just refused to give it up. So that was another reason that I used to make sure that no, I am not going to go on a diet. I'm not going to do, and at the time I called everything a diet because I didn't know any different. Now it's a weight loss journey because it's permanent. So this is something that I have to do for the rest of my life. It's kind of like when an alcoholic gives up alcohol, they can't ever go back and drink it again. Otherwise you lose everything that you've gained. And it's so remarkable when I hear people say, I haven't had a drink in a year or 5 years or 10 years. That is so remarkable. And I didn't understand fully the strength that is required to go through and gain those kind of numbers. Because the longest I'd ever been on a diet was 3 months. That was my longest term. Otherwise, I never made it more than 3 weeks, and I just gave up because it was like, this isn't worth it. I'm not going to sacrifice everything in my life and everything that I love for a few pounds. So what if I'm gaining? So what if I can't fit in the chair, or other reasons? And so what happens if I can't fit into my clothes anymore? Well, like I said, I'll go to a tent and awning place and have my clothes custom made because I'm not going to give it up, and I'm just going to be big. And like I said, that's the wrong way of looking at it. But it took me 48 years to figure that out. I had been overweight since I was 16, so technically I suppose it's probably 32 years instead of 40 because I wasn't overweight the first 16 years. But the point is for over 3 decades, that's how I was justifying things. Another thing that I would use to talk myself out of is my health is good. I'm not having any high blood pressures, or my A1Cs were all in line. Everything literally was in line. I didn't have a risk of diabetes. I didn't have heart problems, nothing. And that's when I go in for my checkups, my doctors would look at me and they literally were just mad at me because here I am 300 pounds overweight, and they're thinking I should have all these ailments so they can put me on all these drugs, and then they can go on all these cruises and buy that island that they want and have their 17 mansions because I'm fat. But they couldn't. When they would get the numbers back, everything was in place. So I use that as, well, if my health is good, whoop-de-ding-dong-do. I'm not going to worry about it. Well, even though that I'm not having trouble yet, it still scared me to the point of, with the stress that I was having and everything, I ended up having 2 mild heart attacks. And I just know, everybody knows, third time is not a charm. We know that it's not going to go right. So I just didn't want to push that limit and find out what we're going to do. Another thing that I did is I kept to myself, so I didn't have to, I stayed, as I've talked many times, I became an introvert, and I stayed at home, or I'd go in the hills, and I wouldn't go out to, bars or restaurants anymore, and I had to because I didn't want to hear the horrible and mean comments about my weight. I lived in delusional land. That's basically where I lived at. And if I didn't hear those things, then it didn't exist. Then I wasn't overweight. And even though that every time I'd look in the mirror, I go, ugh, good, I can't stand what is looking back at me. And that's, like I said, that's not the right way of looking at it, but that's the way, these are ways that I was justifying my over 300 pounds of excess weight. I mean, probably closer to 400. If you really want to break it down, the last time I knew, I was, 573 was what my weight was before I started. And that was at least a year before I started my weight loss journey. So, and I gained, I didn't lose during that time. So I probably was over 600 pounds, I guess, if you want to figure it out. So by the time I get back to the weight I want to be, I'm probably going to be closer to 400 pounds that I've lost just to get myself back to where I was. So that just tells you how far out of whack I really was by thinking this way. Another one, and you're going to laugh at this, and I got to tell you, Willow's right here by my feet while I'm doing this podcast, and the reasoning was, my puppy doesn't care if I'm fat. She still loves me. She doesn't care if I got extra weight. And I say that because she's right here snoozing right by my feet. I couldn't have planned that any better. But, I got to thinking, I don't have anybody to live for. I don't have a significant other that's in my life. I don't have anybody that even wants to be in my life. So, but I have this puppy that thinks the world of me. She looks at me the same. same, whether I'm skinny or I'm fat or I'm eating or whatever it is. And honestly, that was a justification for not losing weight. It's like, okay, if she accepts me for who I am, why do I want to worry about the extra weight? Why do I want to go and sacrifice and cut off all the carbs that I love and the noodles and all that stuff, the Italian food that I absolutely love? Why do I want to give all that up? Well, there is a good reason for it. It kind of helps to keep the heart ticking. To be honest, when you break it down, it's kind of an important little thing when that thing runs better. And you're gonna laugh at this one, I'm sure, but this is a justification. I'm serious as a heart attack. I'm being 100% honest with you guys out there. This world already has enough skinny people in the world. Why do they need one more? I am serious as a heart attack. That is one reason that I use to justify being big. Because I thought, okay, well, you got all these skinny people that are on TV, they're on the radio, they're on these podcasts, they're on all these vlogs and all this other stuff where they're in front of the camera and they look fantastic and they're a size 0 and blah, 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 blah. And I found a reason, and I said, oh, you know what? I don't want to be like that. I'm not interested in being skinny like that. I'm not interested in sacrificing everything they do or working out the 16 hours a day that they have to maintain their toned abs and their legs and their arms and all of that stuff. And it is so, I feel so bad for the women of this era because they're comparing themselves to those few that are lucky enough to be skinny like that and be gorgeous. Most of the working folks out there like me, that's just not an option. It's just, there is too much going on. I don't have a personal chef at home that cooks for me to make sure that I stay within tolerances, stay within the calories that I'm supposed to, and the calories and the sugars. And I don't have somebody like that cooking for me. I have a fantastic son that does a wonderful job in helping me out and stuff there, but he doesn't cook for me full time. I don't have a weight loss trainer. I don't have somebody there that's sitting there beating me into the ground at 5 o'clock in the morning. Get your butt up, start lifting those weights there, start pulling on those bands there. Come on, do those 700 crunches you need to do. I don't have anybody like that, and I'll be honest, if you come into my house at 5 o'clock in the morning and start spouting that stuff off there, I'm going to punch you in the nose. It's just not going to work out. But that is really one of the reasons that I use is we already have enough skinny people in the world. What's one more going to do? And it's not like I'm on any radar. It's not like I'm on TV. It's not like I'm doing my podcasts and videos. So you're not going to see what I look like. So why worry about it? I stayed at home. I just watched TV. I kept to myself, and it was like, okay, I don't need to worry about being skinny because nobody sees me. I go to work and that's it. Everybody accepted me at work. I'm sure there was people that would go, ugh, whatever. As you see me thundering into the shop or into the business and everything else. But it was like, okay, I just don't need to do it. Another thing that there's actually a couple things here. This is kind of a two-pronged one. Skinny people need to be compared to fat guys like me so they look good. And I know you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, Sean, where did you come up with these things? But I'm serious. These are things that I used so I didn't go on a diet and I didn't start my weight loss journey. I figured, you know what? You can't have skinny people without fat people. And I was definitely taking up my fair share of space on this planet by being fat. So I thought, okay, well, if you have me, then you have these skinny people that can say, hey, I'm skinny, look at him, and compare me to him, he's 400 pounds heavier than I am, so that must make me perfect and a goddess. I'm guessing. I don't know. Let's be honest. Like I said, I've had to work through some things there mentally wise to get going on my weight loss journey. But that's one of the things that it is. And it's not just women, it was men. Comparing myself to men, there's plenty of skinny guys out there, and they have the Vin Diesel arms, and they have 6 and 8 pack abs, and these toned legs, and they're all bronze and everything else. And it's just like, I can't get to that point. Honest to God, I have tried to be that way before. I tried all the weight loss stuff. I tried working out and the exercising and the eating right, and it just never worked out. Mainly because I ended up eating all my feelings. What I didn't do was I didn't get mentally prepared for my weight loss journey. And before that, there's no way. Even admitting that I had a weight problem, it still didn't get me mentally prepared for what I was up against. And it just left me okay, this isn't going to work. Another reason is skinny people don't get interested in fat guys like me. Let's be honest. If you're skinny and toned and you work out, you're going to want to be seen with somebody like that, and you have every right to be. I fully understand that. And I didn't want anybody that was that way to be interested in me, because I was afraid that I would drag them down, because you have this perfect body, you have these perfect arms, these perfect legs, the perfect abs, and they're bronzed up, perfect long hair and everything there. And then you got me. It's just like this big blob of fat that just loved his stretchy shorts and his tank tops, and that was it. I mean, I always dress up nice for work. I mean, don't get me wrong, I spend thousands of dollars on my work clothes, but I'm not quite as extravagant on my home clothes. When I get home, I've been dressed up all day. The first thing that I want to do is just get into my stretchy shorts and my stretchy shirt and be comfortable instead of being all dressed up. But that was another way for me justifying it, is because skinny people don't want to be with fat people. And that's the way I justify it. Now, whether that's right or not, keep in mind, these may not be right, but this is what was going on in my head before I decided to jump off and to lose weight. It was just, I didn't know how. I mean, it was the wrong way. Let's be honest. I mean, but I don't know how you guys see yourself, and I don't know what has taken to get you to that point of starting your own weight loss journey. These are the things that I justified myself in my head. These things rolled through my brain every day, so that way I didn't have to start a diet. And I have to admit, the biggest one was nobody would ever be interested in me, so why try? I said that first, and there was a reason for it, because that is the first thing that rolled through my mind every day when I woke up, thinking, okay, well, you know what, I'm going to cram this extra double cheeseburger in my pie hole and start eating it, because I don't need to impress anybody. It's not like I have anybody knocking down the door to be my partner. And it was like, okay, well, don't worry about it. And then I used the crutches, and then I started thinking about, okay, well, if I do that, then they're not going to be interested in it anyway, because skinny people aren't interested in fat people. That's just the way, in my mind, that's how I saw everything. Now, like I said, that may not be right, and I know there's exceptions to every rule, but this is what was rolling through my mind to keep me from jumping on my own weight loss journey. These are the things that, honestly, that were going through my head, saying, okay, this is what's preventing me from doing my own weight loss journey. And I admitted to myself that I have a weight problem. I knew that right away. The problem is getting from the admitting part to the doing part. There was a heck of a break in there. And I never was able to get myself to that point. The couple times that I did try to lose weight and stuff there, or be good, or have less junk food or anything like that, it didn't last long, because life happens. Life is tough. This world is so very tough and mean to everybody. I mean, it breaks my heart. There's so much good that's out there, and it just gets basically covered over by all the mean things, the nasty things, the sex things, everything that's out there that's basically mowing over all the good. That gets noticed first. And it was just like, okay, well, if I know that I have no chance of being with anybody, then guess what? Then I am not going to go, and I'm not going to lose this weight, because there's no actual reason for it. So those are some of the reasons. I don't know if any of these reasons will be the same for what's holding you back for admitting that you got the problem and then jumping into doing. These are just excuses that I used all the time. That was just the way I was, and what made me me. So until I was able to process all of that, and like I said, I had to basically get my mind to a better mental state, and that was paramount. That was the very first step that I had to do. Yes, I admitted that I had a problem. I got to a point, and that's why I jumped off the cliff and just went in and started my weight loss journey. But one thing that I had to learn is I had to give up the grudges. I had to give up all the hate that I had built up for certain people in my life. I had to give up I'm not a jealous man, but sometimes you just think, well, these people are doing better than me. What am I doing that's so wrong? I don't get jealous, but that was always kind of running through my head, and I had to get my mind in the right frame, so I could start off on a fresh track. That's the one thing that I learned, and it took some time. It took a few months to figure this one out, is why I have failed at all my other diets and why I failed at, basically, keeping my weight in check. That's why I was over 300 pounds overweight. Was because my mental status wasn't there. I mean, I was fighting so many bad things. I was fighting so many negative emotions that every time that I would think that I would try to purge them or get rid of them, then I would go, I'd run for the cupboard and get the chips, and I'd get the brownies and the cookies and everything there, because then I started eating my feelings, because what it did is it made me depressed. And it wasn't until I just finally said, oh, you know what, this isn't harming anybody but me. These grudges that I'm holding for people there, and I don't even know most of the time why I was holding them at this point. I've held on to them for so long. They're not doing any good. It's not hurting those people. It's hurting me, and it's holding me back. And I found out this isn't a good thing. This isn't, it was like, okay, what am I... Okay, this just isn't working. And I literally would stand there, and then all of a sudden, all of these reasons, all these excuses would start rolling through my mind again. And it felt like, okay, if I wanted to do this, if I really wanted to go and start my weight loss journey, it felt so insurmountable that I would never ever make it. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm fat, I'm overweight, I can barely walk across the house. How am I supposed to climb, Mount Kilimanjaro, which is basically the way I feel that my weight loss journey is? How am I going to climb that? My goodness, I'll be dead the first 5 minutes trying to hike up that mountain. And that's how I kind of saw losing weight, and that's the way it felt. And it wasn't until I figured out, okay, well, I've got to get my mental status right, because by putting myself right in my mind, what that does is it gave me the strength necessary to pull me through the highs and lows. And Lord knows we all have enough lows going through this life, so that way I don't fall back on the brownies and the cookies and the chips and the all of that stuff, anything to eat your feelings there. So another thing that I had to learn is most people don't choose to be overweight. I didn't, after a while, I guess you kind of do, but in the beginning, I didn't choose to be overweight. I never, to be honest, I put on 200 pounds and it never once ever entered my mind that this is a bad thing, because of all the stuff that I was going through and processing. It was too much, and my way of dealing with it was, okay, well, if I'll just eat more and more double cheeseburgers. I'll eat more and more fries. I'll drink more and more gallons of pop. It wasn't just Mountain Dew. I mean, it was anything that I could get my hands on pop-wise, I drank. And the fast food restaurant that I worked at, all they had was Coke products. So I swilled down. I literally drank so much Mountain Dew that I made myself sick, and every time I drink it now, I get instant heartburn. I ended up burning myself out on that. So then when I couldn't drink that anymore, then I went to Sprite and other things there. It was just like all I was doing was damaging myself and I thought I was being good by being therapeutic. So most people don't even choose to be overweight. It's just like all of a sudden it's kind of like it sneaks up on you. And I know that sounds funny, and I know there's a lot of probably skinny people out there going, how do you not know that you're overweight? The problem is it takes time for the brain to catch up and see you for the gaining weight. Sure, you can see it in the belt line or your waistline, when you try to put your pants on, you realize, I'm running out of room. But for sometimes, for like me, it's like, I'll just get a bigger pants. It's no big deal. They must have shrunk in the dryer. That's what, everybody I think uses that excuse. And I, honest to God, did. I used the same excuse to ignore it because I couldn't admit to myself that I had a weight loss problem. But like I said, for the first 200 pounds, I never once ever thought about gaining way too much weight. I just really didn't even care. I was living the way I wanted to. I was eating the way I wanted, what I wanted, and I just went with it. And it wasn't until, oh my goodness sakes, into my 30s before I realized that, this isn't working. Something's not right here, especially when I couldn't buy any clothes at the store anymore. It was like, okay, maybe I do have a problem. So I went back when I was writing up the notes for this podcast, and I went back to think of, okay, what were some of basically the wake-up calls that smacked me in the face that finally got me to realize, yes, I have a problem, and yes, now I know I have a problem. I have to do something about it. There is no magic pill out there that is going to take all the weight off for you. Unfortunately, if you want it, you're going to have to make the changes and you're going to have to put the work in to get those results. And I swore before I started this, for years and years and years and years, I am not going to put the work in. There's got to be, I'm going to wait until science comes along and you pop a pill and then whoosh, all of a sudden you're 200 pounds lighter, or 300 pounds, or 400 pounds, or 500 pounds, whatever is the amount that you needed to weigh. Well, I kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and thanks science, you never came through. Because if you want to make the changes, you have to put in the work. Unfortunately, you have to do whatever it takes there to get the weight off. And some people are lucky and they can do those fad diets and get it to come off. They can buy the stuff in the stores and do it. I am so envious of that. That is so awesome. You guys get to do that. To me, it just didn't work. And it's not that I have anything against those companies or those products. Nothing. I have absolutely nothing against them. But they just don't work for me. And I chose, instead of spending my money on those products, I chose to spend it on better food. The griddle that is now sitting on my deck that we use to cook all the time with. I found other ways of spending the money. The supplements that I use from Complete Nutrition, they're fantastic. They've helped me so far, and they help me stick to my plan. They're wonderful. They're great as a weight loss supplement. They don't do all the work for you, and that's a popular misconception. Again, is if I start popping pills, they're going to do all the work for me. Well, I hate to break your heart, and they don't. But they are wonderful supplements. They go a long ways, and honestly, I didn't realize how much they had helped until I made the mistake of running out one day. I thought I had another bottle in the cupboard. And when I went to the cupboard and get it, and I looked and I go, uh-oh, I don't have any. And I didn't have any in my lunchbox. I didn't have any in my truck. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? How am I going to get through the day? And it wasn't, because I had to go to work, and of course the place wasn't open at 6 o'clock in the morning. I mean, my goodness, they're home snoozing. And it wasn't until I didn't take those pills throughout the day that I didn't realize how much it helped with the hunger cravings. It helped with blocking the food, because it was like I could eat more, and just it basically just showed me that they're wonderful. But some of the wake-up calls that I ran into, yes, I know I squirreled and got off track there. You're all probably wondering, Sean, you told me you had some wake-up calls. Would you get to it? Sorry about that. One of the wake-up calls that I ran into that smacked me in the face to finally say you need to get off your duff and get moving was I was in a 7X shirt and I'm going to have to go up to another size along with having to gain my pant size. I was up to a size 56 pants before I realized, okay, this isn't working. And I can't believe I'm telling you guys this, because this is so embarrassing. But when I started looking at that, I hadn't been able to buy any clothes in stores for years. I have to buy everything online because those kind folks were able to have the bigger sizes and get them shipped in to me. And thank goodness for those folks. And I realize all of our stores in town, there's only so much stock that they can put in. And so I just knew that I ran out of that one there, and thank goodness, because I buy most of my clothes, thank goodness, and I still do, even losing weight. I love this company. I mean, they have been wonderful to me. I buy all my clothes through King Size. They are fantastic. I love working with them. I can go on and buy it. Their clothes are really, really nice. They hold up. They're well priced. I mean, they're fantastic. So that's where I buy my clothes. But I knew I was going to have to go up to a size 8X, and it was just like, okay, this is just so embarrassing, and I just can't do this anymore. So the next thing that smacked me in the face is I couldn't sit in most chairs, or like when I sat on the couch, it would groan. I mean, it was like the wood in the couch was going to give out because it was holding up so much weight. I mean, it was holding up probably around 600 pounds. To be honest, I don't know where I fully started. I've got a real close estimate. So, holding 600 pounds is crazy. So I understand why. And it was so embarrassing when you go into like an office and you try to sit down in one of those wonderful little chairs that they have by their desk. It's like I couldn't even begin to sit in them. And a lot of times I wouldn't even attempt it anymore because I knew with my big butt wouldn't fit in it. And if it did, you sat there and you were so uncomfortable because the rails and the sides were cutting into your legs and into your butt so bad, it was just absolutely miserable. And then to try to get out of it, that was even more embarrassing when it stuck to your butt. I mean, it was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Another one was walking from one end of the house made me sound like Darth Vader. And I love Darth Vader, don't get me wrong, but it was just like I was just gasping for air and trying to just make it. Another thing that, my depression was getting to me, because you have that circle, you're really, really down, so you eat your feelings. And then once you eat your feelings, then you start looking and you go, oh my goodness, now I ate all this, I got all these calories, what am I going to do? So once I realized that, okay, well, I ate up all these calories, now what am I going to do? I'm going to get more depressed and eat more calories. And then I would go hit the brownies and the cookies and everything else. That started another thing. So my depression was bad enough anyway with everything that I was going through. And then if you topple and put this on top, I mean, it was just like, I give up. It's just like, okay, I'm in quicksand and I can't get myself back out. This just isn't going to work. I was tired of the horrific comments and the pointing of the fingers. The fat shaming essentially is what it was. People love to fat shame fat people, and I don't understand why. And I had my fair share of people that would do it because they cared, and they said, well, if we fat shame you, then that's going to push you into going on a diet and losing weight. Well, I hate to break your heart, but I don't know of anybody that's been fat shamed into skinniness. And trust me, I have known plenty of people that have lost weight, and fat shaming never did it. And I got so sick and tired of that, and it hurt so bad. That just fed into my depression, and guess what? Then it's just over and over and over and over again, and you get nowhere. I was like, okay, this isn't working. And probably one of the things that hurt the most was I wasn't able to fit behind the steering wheel of my truck any longer. I'd get in and my big belly would roll over on the steering wheel itself there. Even though it was pushed up as high as you can go, I was back in the seat as far as the seat would allow me to go. And you get in and you're trying to turn the steering wheel and your belly is holding it up, and it was hard to turn, and it was just embarrassing. And there was one time that I had driven so long and did so many corners, I actually bruised my stomach, if you can believe that. This is embarrassing. I probably shouldn't even be telling you guys this, but I literally bruised my stomach driving. Can you believe that? And it wasn't in an accident. I was just driving and turning the steering wheel. And when I looked at that and I go, okay, I have got to do something different. This just isn't working. So it was, I turned around and I tried figuring, okay, what am I going to do? So these are the things that I did to basically get myself jump started and admitting and moving on into starting my own weight loss journey. The first thing that I had to do, and hopefully some of these help you, I don't know, but these are basically what, when I hit the wall, this is what helped me hit the wall, and I'm hoping maybe some of these will help you. I had to stop making excuses and start the process. That's really what it come down to. And I told you through this whole episode, the reasoning, the justification, everything that I did to say, no, I'm not going to go on a diet. I'm not going to lose weight. I don't need to do this. And I've been telling you all about that. But what I had to do is I had to stop making excuses and start the process. The weight is not going to come off itself. I have to actually work to take it off. And yes, it is tough. Yes, it is difficult, and it's no fun. But you know what? When you start seeing the results and you start feeling better, it's amazing. Like, I should have done this sooner. I don't know what I was thinking. Now, granted, always know you're going to have your up and down days, and you're in the beginning, you're going to fall off, and you're going to have a cheat day, and you might go backwards a little bit, but don't give up on your journey. Don't chuck it all out the window just because you have one bad day. Now, if the one bad day turns into a week or two, okay, and then we need to get you back on track, and we got to do something there. We got to get all that, the junk food away, or help you with, if there's a problem, maybe we can find you some help or whatever there, so you can talk to somebody and you can move on. But just make sure that one day doesn't turn into a week or a month or a year. That's what it did for me. Instead of going all in, I've had a couple people tell me, well, I don't want to start the journey because it sounds so restrictive. What I have told them is instead of going all in, instead of, like me, just driving off a cliff and doing it, start only at half power. Give yourself time to adapt into the new way of eating and the new way of doing things. That way you don't feel like you're 100% committed, but you are still making forward progress. Just do half of, even if you cut your calories, say you're taking in 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day, cut yourself down to 2,500 to 3,000 calories. Just start backing off a little bit. I'm not saying go out and run a marathon by any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying go out and spend $2,000 on exercise equipment by any way, shape, or form. Sometimes just the easiest things is just watch what you eat and back off a little bit and give yourself time to process what you're doing and give yourself time to make the adjustments. And I've had people where they've only started off at half power and they've led into full power, and now they're doing fantastic with their weight loss journey. That's something that might work for you. Work on processing past losses and pains to get yourself in a healthy mental state, and that will give you the strength and the ability to stay on your weight loss journey. I can't tell you enough, you fight such an uphill mental battle. Like I said, the mental battle is more than what the physical and the eating and everything else is on your weight loss. Your mental state is key, and you've got to get yourself to a point to where you can handle making these changes and doing everything that you need. Another thing that I did, and my son still is shocked that I did it, is I took all the bad things out of the cupboards and started working on healthier alternatives. Some people will do this before they go all in on their weight loss journey. That way you have time to adjust. Kind of like when I said, only start at half power. Give yourself time to make these changes because your body is going to go through a heck of a shock. Your mind is going to go through a heck of a shock. You're going to go, what am I doing? What am I thinking? But trust me, it does help. Only go at half power. Even if you only go at half power, you are still making forward progress. You're still losing weight. You're still doing fantastic. Pat yourself on the back. That is awesome. You are amazing. Keep going the way it is, and then just slowly work yourself in to, dropping your calories, eating better, maybe working a little exercise, whatever it is. Trust me, it all helps. Another thing that I do is I'm always looking for new recipes to try out that are low carb, low calorie. And there's some amazing ones out there. I gotta tell you, there are some people that really put some time in and some thought into these things. And I've tried some of the recipes, and it's like, man, you guys are good. I have no idea how you figured this stuff out. But like I said in the past, I eat better now and have better flavors in my food than I ever did while I was overweight. It's amazing. The recipes alone can help pull you through because then you don't need the extra ranch or the ketchup or the mustard or anything like that there to season your food. You find different ways of seasoning it, and trust me, it works. And my son is fantastic when it comes to this. He has been such a godsend through this whole weight loss thing. It helps out so much. And the last thing that I can tell you that helps me is make sure you have a good support system in place to help you with the good and bad days. They should be able to celebrate with you while you're having on your good days, and they're going to be there to help you on the bad days. So when you're having your good days and they're having bad, it gives you the strength to say, hey, I can help you. I can hold you up. We can do this. And it all helps. It's amazing if you set the platform up for you to take off and do good. It's amazing how far you can come and what you can accomplish. But like I said before, make sure your mental state is 100% in place before you start anything, and start at half power. If you don't want to go all in on your weight loss journey, then don't. If your mental fortitude is only good enough for half, then only do half. But that is still forward progress. You are still doing fantastic, and you're still losing weight. So when all is said and done, after all the stuff that I've talked about with you in this podcast, all in all, admitting that you have a weight problem is huge. And I'm not talking about in a size way by saying that, but that's the first step to admitting, okay, I have a problem. I need to do something about it. And that will allow you to take the steps necessary to start on your own weight loss journey. And trust me, it's worth it. You've heard all my excuses, and if you didn't catch them all, re-listen to the podcast again. I had plenty of excuses. Now, whether they made sense to you or if they were mean or whatever, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for them to come across that way. But these are the ways that I justified staying fat in my mind and not starting my own weight loss journey. So I don't know if there's anything in there that compares to what you guys are going through or what you've done, but all I can do is just try to give you some keys, a little bit of help maybe, so that makes things a little bit easier for you. But when all's said and done, just make sure you're happy with yourself and the progress you made. Remember, even if you only lose a pound a week, that's 52 pounds a year. You're going the right direction. Make sure you give yourself credit for that, and make sure you celebrate all the wins that you go through. You make it to 25 pounds, make sure you celebrate it. If you want to do it every 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, it doesn't matter. Whatever it takes to help you out mentally so you stay on track and you continue to lose weight, that's what you have to do. And if people think it's funny, then that's on them. This is what is taking to help get you through your weight loss journey, because I know you're going to get to that finish line. I know you're going to get to the weight that you want to, because you got this. I believe in you. That's what it all comes down to. I want to be your biggest cheerleader, like I have said many times in other podcasts. I'm sending you all the positive thoughts that I absolutely can send you, because I want you to win. I want you to be the best person that you can and be happy with yourself. Because if you're happy with yourself, then you can make other people happy. That's kind of what I've learned. And it's just, that's the best way of approaching it. Make sure your mental status is on. Admitting you have the problem, like I've said many, many times, is a big thing, but you also have to move forward and you have to do something with it. And remember, the weight's not going to come off itself. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to put in the overtime necessary to get it back off. And trust me, I didn't think it was going to be worth it, but it is. I can't say that enough. It actually is. And I'm glad 19 months ago that I dove off that cliff and I started my own weight loss journey, because there's no way that I could give up on it. To know that I would throw 19 months away to give up and go the wrong direction to start gaining weight again is just absolutely impossible for me to think of, and impossible for me to do at this point. I'm too far in. I don't want to lose those 19 months. So that helps. Basically, now it's a snowball effect. I've got a huge snowball. It started off real small and now it's huge, and it's just basically its own momentum at this point, and it's just bringing me along for the ride, and I'm happy that it is, because I feel better. I don't know if I look any better. I probably don't, but to me, I feel better. My health is better. I don't sound like Darth Vader trying to make it back and forth in my house. Sound like I'm gonna die. There's so many benefits out of it, and trust me, it's worth it to get started on your own weight loss journey. And like I said, you've got this. I believe in you, and I know you can do it. No doubt in my mind. When you're ready, you'll get started on it, and you'll be so thankful that you did. Trust me, it's well worth it in the end. So I'm looking at the time on my monitor, and I'm over by a shot what I normally am. So I need to end the podcast today. So as always, as you can see on your screen right now there, and on my screen, it says, ooh, dad joke of the day. So I always like to end these here, because I always want to make you guys laugh. I mean, I know some of you, I get comments and your eyes roll and you groan and they say, where do you come up with these things? And it's like, I just absolutely love them, because I always want to end on a positive note, and the dad jokes of the day are my way of ending on a positive note and hopefully helping you through. So if you're ready to go, here's the dad joke of the day. Do you know why pigs are such horrible drivers? Because they hog the road. I love that one. I about fell out of my chair when I found that one there for you guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. You guys are absolutely amazing. You guys are the best people that I could have listening into my podcast. Remember to share, like, everything that you can do to help out there the podcast so we get out further. And as always, all my love and support, Sean.